Have you ever noticed how, when you describe your day in English, it can sometimes sound a bit mechanical? You say, I wake up at 7, I drink coffee, I go to work. It's perfectly correct, but it feels like a checklist rather than a life. It's like watching a robot perform a series of tasks instead of hearing a person share their morning. But why do native speakers sound so much more fluid? What is the hidden rhythm they use to turn a boring routine into an interesting story? Take Sarah, for example, a busy professional who has mastered the art of storytelling her own day. If you asked her how she starts her morning, she wouldn't just give you a dry list of actions. Instead, she'd say something like, first off, I usually drag myself out of bed around 7, but I don't actually get up until I've had a few minutes to scroll through my phone. Notice how she uses the phrase drag myself out. That's a phrasal verb, a common way. Native speakers combine a verb with a small word like out to add specific flavor or emotion. She's not just waking up, she's describing the actual effort of the moment. Then, she might continue. Once I'm finally up, I head to the kitchen to brew some coffee before I jump into the shower. Compare that to a textbook version. I wake up, I stand up, I go to the kitchen, I make coffee. The textbook version is technically correct, but it feels like a grocery list. Sarah's speech uses transition words like once and before to glue her actions together into a smooth stream. She's not just listing facts, she's creating a flow that helps you see her morning as a continuous experience. That flow Sarah uses isn't just a stylistic choice. It's actually how your brain is wired to handle language. Instead of building every sentence from the ground up, word by word, our brains prefer to use what linguists call chunks. Think of a chunk as a pre-packaged set of words that your brain stores as a single unit of meaning. When you learn I'm headed to as one single chunk instead of 3 separate words, your brain doesn't have to do the heavy lifting of assembling them every time you speak. Research in psycholinguistics actually backs this up. Studies on lexical retrieval, how our brains find words in our memory, show that when people use common collocations or words that naturally go together, the time it takes for the brain to select the next word is significantly shorter. It's like grabbing a pre-made sandwich from the fridge instead of cooking every single ingredient from scratch every time you're hungry. By focusing on these chunks, you aren't just improving your speed, you're actually reducing your cognitive load, which is the mental energy your brain spends on processing information. When you stop worrying about grammar for every tiny piece of a sentence, you free up your energy to focus on the message you want to share. Think about how much of your professional life relies on describing what you actually do. This is where what I call the professional pivot becomes a game changer. Consider a case study of a project manager named Elena who was interviewing for a senior role at a global tech firm. Elena was technically brilliant, but during her initial interviews, her descriptions of her daily routine felt a bit flat. She would say things like, I check my emails first, then I talk to my team. After that, I make a plan for the day. While these sentences were grammatically correct, they felt like a list of chores rather than a professional workflow. Elena decided to pivot by using high-impact verbs and professional collocations, which are simply groups of words that habitually go together in a specific context. Instead of checking emails, she began to say she triages her inbox to identify high-priority tasks. Instead of talking to her team, she explained that she syncs with her department to align on project milestones. By switching to these more sophisticated chunks, the way she spoke transformed. She wasn't just telling the interviewer what her tasks were. She was demonstrating her leadership and her ability to navigate complex environments. It's the difference between showing someone your ingredients and showing them the finished meal. To organize all those different tasks you do throughout the day, try visualizing your energy as a rechargeable battery. Think of your daily routine not as a static list of chores, but as a dynamic cycle of charges and drains. This mental framework helps you categorize your work not just by what you're doing, but by how much it actually costs you. For example, some tasks are high drain. These are the items that require intense focus, deep concentration, or significant emotional energy. When you're navigating a complex negotiation or tackling a project with a very tight deadline, You're essentially watching your battery percentage drop rapidly. In a professional context, you might describe these as high-intensity demands on your mental bandwidth. But even the most powerful battery needs a way to stay powered up, which brings us to recharge activities. These are your low-drain tasks, the routine maintenance of your day. This could be handling quick correspondence or filing reports. They don't require much heavy lifting, but they keep the system running smoothly. By identifying which tasks are power-heavy and which are recharging, you can describe your day with much more nuance. You aren't just listing a to-do list anymore. You're describing how you strategically manage your personal capacity to stay productive from morning until evening. Once you understand the why behind your tasks, you can start to communicate that depth to other people. Think about how we actually talk to friends. Imagine you're grabbing a coffee with an acquaintance and they ask, "So, what does a typical day look like for you?" If you answer by simply listing your duties, "I check emails, I have 3 meetings, and then I write reports," it can feel a bit like a dry interrogation. It's just a series of facts, and it doesn't give your listener much of a hook to keep the conversation going. Now, compare that to using softeners and fillers. Instead, you might say, "To be honest, it's a bit of a mixed bag." That little phrase, "to be honest," acts as a bridge. It signals that you're about to share a personal reflection, rather than just a data point. You could follow that up with, "I tend to start with some light admin stuff to ease into things, but then the afternoon usually gets pretty heavy with deep work." Phrases like "I tend to" or "it's a bit of a" are essential because they take the pressure off the statement. They provide a bit of breathing room, showing the listener that you're thinking in the moment rather than reciting a rehearsed script. It moves the conversation from "here is my schedule" to "here is my experience," which is the key to making your daily routine feel like a natural story rather than a list of chores. When we think about why these stories matter, it helps to look at how humans have expressed them throughout history. For a long time, literature was mostly about the big stuff, heroic battles, royal decrees, or epic journeys. But during the 19th century, a major shift occurred with the rise of realism. Writers began to argue that the true essence of life wasn't just found in those grand moments, but in the quiet, repetitive cycles of the everyday. They started to capture the way a person prepared a meal, walked to work, or managed their household. This shift turned the mundane into a form of art, suggesting that our daily habits aren't just chores. They are the actual building blocks of our identity. When we view our daily habits as the building blocks of who we are, the way we describe them changes. We stop seeing a routine as a grocery list of chores and start seeing it as a narrative. That's the secret to moving past that robotic, repetitive, "I do this, then I do that" structure. By using flow markers to connect your actions and chunking related tasks into single, cohesive thoughts, you create a sense of fluid movement. You aren't just reporting data to a listener, you're inviting someone into your world. This shift allows your English to feel less like a series of isolated, dry instructions and more like a natural, idiomatic rhythm. It's the difference between reading a technical manual and actually sharing a life. If you enjoyed finding that rhythm today, I'd love to have you join our community here at Quick English. Let's keep building your fluency together, one daily habit at a time. I'll see you in the next episode.